Hello, today I'm talking to Daniella Bernett, live from New York. Good afternoon or good morning to you. Would you like to tell us a bit more about yourself and your books?
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm the author of the Emmeline Kirby Gregory Longdon Mystery Series, which features a journalist and a jewel thief slash insurance investigator. Both of my characters are British. My books takes place in the UK and in Europe. And my latest book, Old Sins Never Die, which was just published in the September. It's set in London, the Lake District, and the Isle of Mull.
And what made you set your books in the UK and Europe?
Well, I've been an Anglophile since I was a little kid. I read books, watched TV programs, movies. I devoured anything that had to do with the UK. So it just was natural for me when I started writing, that my characters would be British and the books would be set in the UK. And I visited the UK, different parts of the UK several times. So it's just a natural milieu for me for my stories.
And did you always want to be a writer?
Oh, yes. Since I was 9 years old, I wanted to be a writer. When I was my fourth grade teacher, she used to have once a week creative writing hour, and she would give us different assignments. And I just loved it. And I knew that's what I wanted to do when I grew up.
And then what made you finally take the plunge and go for it?
Well, it's for me, because I wanted to be a writer, I studied journalism. So that was the natural progression for me. I mean, all along in school, I was writing stories, and then I wrote 2 poetry collections. And then the idea for my series, well, actually, I wrote 1 novel. And my first job out of college, I worked for Penguin USA, the publisher. And one day I got up the courage to show my manuscript to one of the editors there. And she said that it was better than what she saw from a lot of first-time authors, but I had to think in terms of a series. So I tried revising it, and then I just chalked it up to a good exercise. And then slowly, I started thinking about the series and characters, and then one day, Emmeline and Gregory just popped into my mind, and it came together, and I just started writing Lead Me Into Danger, which is the first book in my series. And then the rest, here I am today. Old Sins Never Die, that's book 6. Book 7, Viper's Nest of Lies, will be coming out this September, and I'm currently working on book 8 in my series.
And what made you choose that genre in particular?
I've always loved. My mother got my sister and me when we were little into mysteries and spy thrillers. So that's just the genre that I love. So I naturally like Agatha Christie is my hero. I love Agatha Christie. I just love the way that the concept of her stories. And what's really great about Agatha Christie too, she's so astute about human nature and all its foibles. So that just creating she looks at jealousy, murder, all sorts of different emotions, and in each book she stirs it up differently and comes up with a new plot. So that was very exciting for me in terms of a writer and coming up with plots of my own.
And where did you come up with those 2 names for your characters? They're very interesting names.
Well, Emmeline is a name that I've always liked the name Emmeline. So when it's like my character, it's like, yes, my character will be named Emmeline. And I've grew up watching old movies. I loved Gregory Peck and Cary Grant. So I thought Gregory would be a good name for my protagonist.
And what's the most interesting thing you found out researching your books?
Let's see, researching my books. Oh, well, with Checkered Past, one of the previous books, that deals with a looted Nazi painting. And one of the characters in the book is, the character's name is Doyle. He was a former IRA commander and a German collaborator. And while I was doing research for that, I found it interesting because I knew during World War II that Ireland was neutral, but the IRA, there were a number of collaborators with the Germans, and I found that interesting. So I weaved that detail into my story.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
You see, you learn everything every day.
Yeah, I usually do actually. It's great for me. I love it. If you were to be a character in any of your books, which would you choose?
I would definitely say Emmeline. Like Emmeline is like all of my characters, and I think this would be correct for any author. Every character is part of you somehow. I would say Emmeline because she's determined. She always wants to find out the truth. Well, she's reckless too. I can't deny that. But she has more courage than I ever would. So I would say Emmeline. I would like to be there at the forefront, fighting for justice, getting the culprit, and making sure that justice is served.
And would you give any of your characters a spin-off of their own?
I've thought about right now. I'm focused on my series with Emmeline and Gregory, but there are a number of other characters like Superintendent Oliver Burnell of the Scotland Yard and his Sergeant Jack Finch. Then I have a character. His name is Philip Atchison. He works for the Foreign Office, but he's also that's. In name because he also is a MI5 agent. So, perhaps in the future when I can't think of any more stories for Emmeline and Gregory, I might spin off one of the other characters. But at the moment, I'm concentrating on Emmeline and Gregory.
And would you ever set any future books in your own country?
Perhaps, yeah, perhaps I would. But for me, England, the UK, it's more interesting. I think the stories that come to mind more readily fit with a UK or European setting than here.
See, to us, New York is interesting. It's
Yeah,
like
I'm
one
sure.
of our top destinations.
Well, in New York is an interesting city, but I live here. This is home for me. It's like there's murder, excitement. Where can I put that? How about UK and Europe?
We have enough of our own.
Yes, I know. Well, it could be said the same anywhere. So
Yeah, yeah, well, it's not too bad, I suppose, when everyone's locked inside, they can't kill each other.
yeah.
I totally forgot what I was going to ask you. Do you get time to read much?
Oh, I'm a voracious reader. I have to be reading something all the time. And this was true when I was in school. We had whatever was assigned to us in class, but I was always reading on the side because my parents instilled in my sister and me a love of reading from when we were very little. So I have to have a book I'm reading every day. It's like I can't imagine a day without reading.
And what sort of thing do you read? Do you stick to any genres or you read anything?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, mysteries, spy thrillers, those are my favorites, but I also read the classics. I'm interested in biographies, history books, because for me, history has always been an interesting subject because it's important for us to know the past, to understand how things evolved to the present, and also hopefully so we don't repeat the same mistakes that were made in the past. So the only thing I don't read is science fiction and horror. I've never liked that.
What are some of the best books you've read recently?
Some of the best books that I've read recently. Let's see. In terms of mysteries or just in
Just
anything.
Yeah, anything.
Let's see. So I read so many books and now I can't think of a thing.
Yeah,
Let's see. Oh, this new book by Jennifer Robson. It's called Our Darkest Night. It's a World War II book. It's set in Italy during World War II. It was a wonderful, moving book. The language was lyrical. It was an extremely moving book.
I have to keep an eye out for that. I would recommend a book called Wednesday's Child, and it's by a lady called Laura Thomas, and it's her debut book, but it's set between the two world wars. She's the first British woman to go into the army and to be sent over to France to fight. And then it follows her story. She's 14 when she first goes to work, and she's a naive 14-year-old, and then she has to grow up, and it was amazing. It blew me away, actually. It was incredible. It made me cry as well. So
that sounds interesting. I'll keep that in mind. That definitely sounds like something that I would read.
Yeah, I loved it. What was I going to ask again? I keep going off topic and forgetting.
That's okay.
Usually I'm quite organised. So keep going.
That's all right.
So if you were to spend a day with any author, dead or alive, who would you choose?
Agatha Christie, definitely Agatha Christie, because I would just absorb everything that she would tell me, just to pick her mind about how she came up with her plots, what subjects interested her that, eventually led to the plots of her novels. Agatha Christie, definitely.
Yeah, she's a popular choice, actually, and I'd love to meet her as well.
Yeah, I think I would learn so much about the craft of writing from her, and the development of plots. That would be amazing for me.
Do you have many author friends?
Yeah, I've developed like somehow I haven't met in person, but like through Facebook, and so I have and plus I'm a member of the Mystery Writers of America New York chapter and a member of the International Thriller Writers, so I've made connections through those two organizations as well.
And have you made lots of British author friends?
Oh, well, I have a few connections. They happen to, they're British, but they happen to live here now. Rhys Bowen, Tessa Arlen, those two here that, like I said, that are here.
Yeah, I've spoke to a couple of authors that live in Florida, actually, as well. So it's funny how everyone sort of spreads out.
It's like migrated here.
Yeah, I don't blame them either, especially when it's cold. And we've got snow, like, please, sunshine. And do you get much feedback from readers?
I do, I have on my website, DanielaBernett.com, there's also a little email there. So some readers have sent me notes, or through Facebook, some they've sent me messages. So I'm always happy to hear from readers if they like something, or if they don't like something. Hopefully I don't like not hearing that they don't, but it's important for me as an author to have that feedback, whether it's good or bad.
And do you have author events in America?
We do, but with this past year, I mean, normally, like when a new book comes out, I do a reading and signing at a store in Manhattan. It's called the Mysterious Bookshop. But unfortunately, because of the lockdowns and it, we weren't able to have all of those things last year. Maybe this year with the vaccine, maybe with the new book that's coming out in September, I'll be able to do that, because I really enjoy those events, doing the reading and then taking questions from the audience. So I really missed that this year. So there have been a couple of these like Zoom interviews that I did, but I really miss doing the readings in front of people.
And would you ever come over to the British book festivals? We have quite a few.
Yeah, I know they're quite, I would love to do that. The only thing is I also work full time. So it's in general, it's difficult for me to squeeze in the time to write. But one day I would love to go over there. First of all, because I love going to Britain, but to actually meet with British authors and exchange it. I mean, I love exchanging thoughts with authors in general, but to be there in England with British authors to see some of their points of view, I would love to do that one day.
And I find, and a lot of others agree, that it's quite a supportive community anyway.
It is.
And the bloggers and everything else, you know, they're all equal-ish when it comes to those situations. So yeah, I think it would be lots of fun. I've never been either, so I want to go as well.
Yeah, no, I would love to go. I mean, I've always been a person. I mean, I never text and so on. I would rather talk to someone in person or on the phone than, you know, through texting. So I think gatherings like that are very important. And as you said, in general, authors are supportive of one another. I mean, we all had to start at the bottom and, you know, we have to claw our way up. So I think authors understand that more than in other fields. So I think they're more willing to help one another. I mean, of course, there's, you know, some who have gotten too big for their britches, but, you know, in general, authors like to help one another. And I think that's nice. And to have that, you know, when you talk to someone and they understand, you know, the problems or what you're going through, it's nice to have that.
Yeah. Well, so you say you work full time. So how do you fit in writing around your job and your other responsibilities?
Well, I write in the evenings and on the weekends. That, you know, I try to squeeze in the time for that. And, you know, I've told other people this too, you know, I have so little time to write. You know, some days, you know, I'm tired from work or my brain is just not functioning and I can only write a paragraph or two. And that's frustrating for me because I have so little time to begin with. And then all I can do is squeeze out that. And then other days, the muse is working and I can do 2 or 3 pages. So that's just the ebb and flow of a writer's mind.
Yeah. And what's your ultimate goal being a writer?
I just to, well, I mean, to sell lots of books, of course, but to sell books that readers, people are reading my books and enjoying my books, because I write the stories not just for me, but for readers, because I want people to enjoy the stories and just to give them an escape for a little while. Because, you know, this world of ours, yes, it can be nice, but there are a lot of things that are difficult and you just want to step away for a little bit. And I hope that my books do that for people. They can escape, like, you know, especially on some now with this past year with lockdown, you know, we can't travel, but you can travel through the pages of a book. So, you know, I hope I do that for readers.
Have you noticed any increase in the amount of people reading your books or getting feedback during the lockdown?
A little bit, yeah, and I hope so. But, you know, maybe because, you know, mine is a small press, so I don't get as much as some of the bigger. But I have seen a little bit of a bump during the virus, so I hope that continues. And then through wonderful people like you, maybe spread the word there in England about my books. That would be great. Gain new readers.
I definitely will, don't worry. Well, I mean, this is going to be everywhere anyway once I post it, so they will get to know you.
I appreciate that.
Gone blank again.
That's okay.
What's your most embarrassing story?
As a writer or just my life in general? In general. I don't know about embarrassing. I don't know about embarrassing, but I could give you a little adventure that I was on that triggered an idea for the last story, Old Sins Never Die. We were on a cruise around the British Isles a few years ago. And one night we were doing an overnight crossing. and the weather was quite bad. It was, and we discovered the term pitching. If you don't know what pitching is, you really don't want to know. It's when the boat goes up and then slams down very hard, and then it goes up and down, and the boat was rattling, everything in the cabin was rattling, this and that, moving. We all thought we were going to die. We thought we were going to have to abandon ship, and when situations like that, you get crazy ideas in your head. It's like, I'm in my nightgown. It's like, maybe if I just put my sneakers on, I'll be all right if we have to abandon ship. So the whole night was like this, up and down and rattling. And the next morning, maybe other of the passengers made some complaints. The captain made an announcement. Oh, it was nothing. It was perfectly normal. We all wanted to kill the captain. But that idea for this story, because I told you the new book, Old Sins Never Die, takes place in the Isle of Mull, so in that general region. The area was beautiful, and it gave me the idea to put that Isle of Mull and Tobermory, which we visited after that pitching, in the book. So the adventure ultimately had a happy ending, but we really thought that night we were going to die.
Yeah, this is why I keep my feet firmly on the ground. I do not go on boats if I can help it. Except to the Isle of Wight, that's it.
Oh, I'd love to go there, the Isle of Wight, one day. I haven't been there, but Isle of Mull, I can highly recommend it, especially Tobermory, the town of Tobermory. It's lovely.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Actually, I've never been. So, did you find any difficulties with our weird phrases and accents and different local sort of specialities of language when you were writing your books?
Not really, because it goes back, since I've been an Anglophile since I was little, I was always reading books and watching TV series. So I picked up for the idiomatic expressions and the phrases, and so it just like it comes second nature to me now, because I've always been exposed through books and program, and since I've been to the UK several times, I've been exposed to that. So it's like, it's not like I have to think about it. It just comes when I'm writing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always grateful that I grew up learning English as my first language, because it is crazy. I mean, even I don't understand some of the stronger accents, especially Scottish. If people talk fast, I have no chance.
Like the Heelan Coo and so on, that's the Highland cow, and but it's fun. It's always, I love traveling for the reason that you get to interact with the local people, and you learn the local customs, and you just learn about the area. And I just love, I guess it's an author's natural curiosity to always learn about the places or subjects and so forth.
What do your friends and family think of your books? Have they read them?
Yeah, when I finish a manuscript, my mother is always the first one to read it, and then my sister, because they've both been mystery fans, so they always give me comments, and I make some revisions, and then I submit it to my editor and keep my fingers crossed that they'll accept the new book as well. And then my friends, whoever's read my books, the ones who have gotten back, they all tell me that they love the books. And a lot of people said, your books should be made into movies. I'm like, well, that would be nice, but you have to have connections for that. And I don't have connections, but it's nice to hear things like that.
Yeah, and that's a lot of authors' dreams, actually, is to have a Netflix series or a film. So I don't know.
I would be happy. I mean, a movie would be great, but I would be even happy. I don't know if you're familiar, but here in the United States, we have Masterpiece Theater and Masterpiece Mystery, where they present a lot of the British mystery programs. I would be happy with a Masterpiece Mystery series of my books. That would be, I don't think that's asking too much, but, it's just a dream for the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know who commissions these things, but I've never met any, or I don't know who you would even ask to do that.
Yeah. Now you'd have to have a special agent, and then you have once you have an agent, then they go to a producer. So I'm not familiar with all the details, but I don't have those sorts of connections.
No.
But it would be nice. It's something to dream about.
Absolutely, yeah. If you were to have your books made into TV series or film, do you have any people in your head that you would have to play your main characters?
Yeah, I do. Like lots of people have asked me. For Gregory, I think Rufus Sewell would be perfect as Gregory. For Emmeline, I think either Jenna Coleman or Lily James. And then perhaps for Philip Atchison, the character I told you who's in the Foreign Office, but in MI, maybe Rupert Penrith Jones. And then Superintendent Oliver Burnell of Scotland. He's a little more difficult, but maybe Hugh Bonneville or John Nettles.
Nice. This needs to be made. I would totally
watch. I agree.
Already I'm sold. I'm watching it.
Good. Spread the word.
I will. I don't know who to, but I will. I'll try.
Thank you.
If you were to invite 4 famous people to a dinner party, who would you invite?
Writers or just famous people in general?
Anybody you want.
Anybody. Okay, why don't we, since we're talking about writing, why don't I stick with writers? Naturally, number 1 would be Agatha Christie. Anthony Horowitz would be another one because I admire his work as well. Jeffrey Archer. He's another interesting one. And let's see, 4 you said? For a 4th one, that's difficult. 4th one, I can't think of a 4th one right now, but those are in terms of like writing and their lives, and it would be an interesting dinner party to say the least.
What would the people closest to you say your worst habits are?
Oh, and you can ask this, and I warn people about this. I'm impatient and I have a short temper. Some people don't want to believe me, but trust me, I'm telling you, those are my worst qualities. Yeah, no, it's always been that way. So you stand warned.
Yeah, I've noted. If you were stranded on a desert island, what 3 things would you want with you?
Book. I would have to have at least 1 book with me, otherwise I'd go crazy. 3 things. The books, maybe a CD player so that with some classical music, because I enjoy classical music, with some classical music CDs, Albinoni or Tartini or Mozart, to at least have a little bit of that. And then a 3rd thing, maybe on a desert island, you said? It's like maybe an umbrella to keep me from the sun.
Good choice. So when you're not working and you're not writing, what do you enjoy doing?
Reading, naturally. And then, you watch TV, I love old movies. I know old movies better than I know a lot of movies nowadays. So I can tell you about that. So essentially that's me. I work out, I go to the gym.
And I've forgotten again.
That's okay.
What superhero power would you choose if you could have any?
Superhero power. To be able to give good health to my family and friends.
Nice.
Your health is the most important thing.
So you said you're working on your 7th, 8th?
Yeah, I'm book 7 will be, which is called Viper's Nest of Lies, will be released in September, but I'm currently working on book 8.
So then what's coming next for you after that? Do you have any idea yet?
Well, I have I have a little bit of an idea for book 9 in my head, but I'm focusing on book 8 now, because with each of the books, I like to leave a little something at the previous book and then develop it a little bit more so that, keeps readers wanting to know, wanting more. So that's what it is. I mean, the kernel of the idea for 9 is like, it's buzzing around in the back of my head, but I'm focusing currently on book 8.
Do you ever dream or have nightmares about your characters?
Well, it oftentimes I wake up, you're going to laugh, and a lot of people do. I wake up in the middle of the night because I think of a great line of dialogue. So the stories do follow me into my dreams. And then I have to write it down immediately because if I wait till morning, I'll forget the idea.
And what's your biggest fear, and would you ever write about it?
My biggest fear, well, in terms of a story, or just like in general, I guess not coming up with ideas, being stuck and at the point where I can't think, my mind is a complete blank. I hope I never get to that stage, but I think that's the fear of any author, being able that their creative flow just dries up. So.
Yeah, either that or just thinking that someone's going to tell him that actually this has all been a joke and you need to stop now.
Ooh, that would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Or like the worst thing that would happen would be if like you had your manuscript and somebody tossed it out and then somehow, which I can't imagine this, that you don't have a copy of it. That would be a complete nightmare. But I mean, I always back up on several thumb drives, and so I always have 3 copies, but that would be a nightmare.
Do you find it harder to come up with character names or book titles?
Not really. I mean, either one, because it's like once I get the idea of the character I have in my, like either for a bad guy or for the protagonist, the name comes, because for me the name comes, and then I start developing like what this person is like in my head. So that comes fairly easily in terms of titles, even titles of books too. They just come because of the storyline I've come up with. The title comes to me. I know other authors have difficulty coming up with the title, or they wait till the end, but I have my title from the beginning because I don't do an outline, but I like to plot the storyline, the basic storyline in my head, so I know what's going to happen. So because of that, the title comes easily, and I have the title when I first, I start writing page 1.
Well, I don't think I have any more questions for you, unless there's anything that you think I haven't asked you that you want to tell us about.
No, I think we've covered a wide range of topics here, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope I'll gain some new readers from your wonderful interview here. But in case people want to learn more about me and my books, my website is daniellabernett.com, and that's Bernett, Bernett. There's an email address there if people want to drop me a little note. You can also find where you want to buy my books. My books are available everywhere. Amazon, they're in England at Waterstones or wherever books are sold. So I hope readers will look into my books. Oh, and then in terms of the books, I mean, if you want to see how Emmeline and Gregory develop, you can start with book 1. But if you pick up this new one, Old Sins Never Die, you'll be fine, because each of the books can stand alone, because I put some of the backstory in there, so you won't be lost. You'll be able to follow along. So whichever way you start out, I hope people will dip into my books.
When I post this on my page, I'll put a link to your website on there as well, so they can go directly and have a look.
Okay, and then, I'm on Facebook and Goodreads too, so if people want to connect with me there, I'd love to hear from people.
Awesome. That's all I have for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Bye.